Test 1, 2. Give me a test on that mic.
Test 1, 2, Jonathan.
Okay,
Test.
good. Do you have notes?
No, I just. Are we talking now online? I'm doing a sermon on Thanksgiving, and I had a couple good quotes here. Like if you ask me questions, I have a
Great.
A really good quote.
Mm.
I wanted to share.
I'm thinking of renaming this the place between the plants or something like that.
That is good.
Like
that is good.
The place among the plants or something.
Or we're working now. We're doing this.
We're working.
Okay,
yeah.
we're doing it. I like what you've done with the place, Jonathan. I like what you've done. I'm almost ODing on oxygen. There are so many green plants in here. I feel like I'm getting a new vibe of oxygen. It's pretty cool.
That's what I hope. It's like you come in here and you're pretty much outside.
Yes. I feel good. I'm in
living
the jungle. I'm in the jungle.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad that you're here today, and we're talking, and we're going to talk about gratitude today.
Great.
So can you tell me a little bit about the importance of gratitude, especially during the coronavirus and COVID?
Yeah, it's a complicated pathway, John, because some people will come up to you and say, "Oh, isn't it great? Everybody has COVID," and I'm not sure about that comment. And then others are, so fearful and afraid about COVID. So I think we have to chart a middle course on it about giving thanks, and we want to do it in a way that really pleases the Lord, not a way that kind of aggrandizes ourselves or makes us think, aren't we great? We're so righteous because we can give thanks even when we're on a ventilator. I'm not sure that is what God's looking for. I think he's looking more for our heart.
What do you mean by that? He's looking for our heart?
Well, as well as I do, everything that we do comes out of our heart, and that's certainly the place where gratitude starts. It's going to come out of our hearts. We can have these pious platitudes, and we can have the little verses that we might use and those kinds of things, but if our hearts aren't right, it's not going to work, and people will know that too.
Yeah.
People will see that it's kind of a fake gratitude.
Yeah. Because we were talking a little bit before, what do you think is the differences between a biblical gratitude and just a normal gratitude? Because you made that distinction even just in a prayer before. I don't know if you meant to do that. But.
Yeah. I hope it's the Holy Spirit that did it, and I'm getting old and feeble, so I can't remember things anymore. But I think it's very easy for us as Christians. And I love piety. I love that word. I want us to be pious in all the best sense of that word. But I think sometimes as Christians, we can use gratitude to sort of pat ourselves on the back. That's the superficial gratitude, like, hey, look at me. And then after we say that in a public setting, perhaps, or in a prayer, then we go back to our apartment or our condo, and we're not thankful. And that's what I was praying in my prayer this morning, that I wanted my heart to be thankful. I don't want to be Pastor Howie, the guy who, prays these great gratitude prayers, and then I go home and I'm just full of ingratitude. That's not healthy for me, and that's certainly not healthy for people who are around me.
Mm-hmm. So, just practically and personally, what are the things that you're thankful for at this time of your life and at this time of the year? And
yeah, it's a great question. I find myself becoming more and more thankful for the little things, for peace and quiet and faith, family, relationships with people. I just had a really heartfelt conversation with an older couple, and it just meant a lot to me to hear their struggles, and then to hear how they're allowing God to work through them gave me a chance to give thanks for that. Just to see God work. And I know you're a poet, John, and you like to read mysterious books and everything. And so I was out walking last night, and as I came back to my house in Hawthorne, I just stopped to stretch a little bit, and it's kind of, the sky is kind of wide open there, and there are all these puffy little white clouds just going along, just like little snowflakes up in the sky, and that's the kind of thing. It was very quiet in Hawthorne, and I just looked up at that and God's creation, and I just had a real sense of gratitude that he would create something as beautiful as that, and that I get to enjoy that.
That's awesome.
Of course, it was freezing cold, John.
Yeah,
I want you to know.
That's what I was
and it was
say.
windy, and I couldn't enjoy it for too long. I had to get in the house because I was freezing.
I was thinking about going for a walk last night, but I was like, walked outside and it was like 30 degrees out.
And windy.
No thanks. And it just started to drizzle a little bit too. So I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So can you talk to me about, because you do counseling and you talk to people who are going through some just big struggles in life. What should the Christian attitude in the midst of our struggles be? Should we always be grateful no matter the circumstance? Because I think that gratitude can be something that cures a lot of struggles, and not cures, but helps us through a lot of struggles if we just look like the idea of counting your blessings. But is there ever a way that we shouldn't have gratitude in certain situations?
I think so. I mean, that's my personal opinion as a pastor. And I think there's varying positions on that. I have on the highway sign this week, give thanks always.
Yeah.
And, it's coming up to Thanksgiving, and I thought that would be a good one. But every time I ride out of the church lot, I'm thinking, okay, Howie, are you giving thanks always? You're running behind, or, you don't know what you're going to have for supper tonight, or you got a meeting coming up in an hour, you're never going to make it. Are you giving thanks always here for everything? I think gratitude and thankfulness, I'm more and more convinced, is a discipline. I really think it's a discipline that we as Christians need to do a better job of cultivating in our lives. Just like, being silent or worship or, meditation, those kinds of disciplines that we have. I think we need to pay closer attention to gratitude. And I'm just thinking about that because I have to preach on Sunday down at Hackensack. And it's a sermon on gratitude. And I'm going through my library and I can't find anything on gratitude. And I said, boy, I should write a book on gratitude.
Yes.
How come I can't? This is one of the great Christian virtues, is gratitude and thankfulness. And I'm tearing apart my shelves looking for something to help me with my sermon. And I'm thinking, boy, somebody's got to do some more writing on gratitude. And maybe people who are listening to this know of a good resource. I don't know.
The great ordained minister, Pastor Howie, can pump out a good
nice
few
book.
hundred pages on that. That'd be great.
Do a little self-publishing, and
I'll help you
David
edit the whole
Tierney
thing.
could help me with it computer-wise, and
that'd be great.
I'm giving a little shout out to David Tierney because he's our live audience today here in the in Jonathan's Jungle.
But
yeah, I just thought gratitude is such a wonderful quality that we should be pursuing. And I do think it's a discipline. Back to your question, it's got to be, we have to work with, in cooperation with the Holy Spirit, but it should be our first default. We should be first and foremost thinking gratitude. Okay, help me to be thankful for this. But then as, you see a car crash or you see your house burning down, certainly it's okay to ask God what he's doing and have some despondency or be depressed or discouraged. Those are all legitimate emotions. You don't have to sit there like Thomas Edison did, which cracks me up every time I read it, when his factory was on fire and he said, hey everybody, come on down here, it's the greatest fire you'll ever see. And it's like all his work is going up in flames, but Thomas Edison said that. I don't know that I'm fully at that point, John.
Yeah.
It's hard for me when I come out and I have a flat tire on my car. I say, oh, thank you, God, for my flat tire.
I know, yeah, exactly. I know, that's the one thing. Sometimes I think I see as Christians, it's forced gratitude almost.
Yes.
Like we're in a bad situation in our life and we'll talk to certain people and they'll be like, oh, but there's so much to be thankful for. And I don't think that's actually a healthy place to be.
I'm not sure it is either.
Yeah.
I think we need to be realists. I think people out there in the world are watching us in our culture and they spot that a mile away. If we do that kind of an attitude and they look at us, I know we're supposed to be different, but it needs to be a healthy difference from them. And I think sometimes we try to put on airs or we try to act the part a little bit when it comes to gratitude. And I think there's nothing wrong with being really honest. You know as well as I do. You read the Psalms and some of the Old Testament prophets, they were brutally honest with their emotions and their feelings and wonderings. I think too, John, there's a reflective aspect to gratitude too. It's not something okay, so you've run into a bad stretch in your life. You have a bad series of bad events happening. Take a break. Sit back. Count to 10 and reflect. And I think when we reflect and we invite God into it, that's when we can begin to be have a little more gratitude. I hate COVID. I don't like wearing my mask, but take a step back. And I was just talking to somebody today, and I can't for the life of me remember, but we came across the fact that we found a silver lining in the coronavirus, and we both had a good laugh about it.
Good.
Yeah, but of course the coronavirus is a terrible thing, you know.
But I think that's an important point you make, even with all this stuff going on. Like, we're not sitting back and just being all hunky dory. Like, oh, everything's great. We have so much to be grateful for. We do have so much to be grateful for. But there's a proper time, like in Ecclesiastes. There's a time to mourn. There's a time to give thanks. There's a time to
time to plant, a time to sow. And I just said that in a funeral that I had yesterday. I mean, I'm not going to go to a funeral home and just stand up there in front of the mourners and give thanks for the whole service. I mean, we're thankful your loved one is dead. We're thankful that, let's be realists here. Let's be honest with our feelings and our emotions, and we can process through that through the Word and get to a good place where we have gratitude. That's what I try to do when I'm doing funerals. I look for places where you can give thanks, but let's not be so superficial that we just jump right to giving thanks for something that's really awful.
For sure. Even there's like these prayer models that people have, and people will say the first thing you always need to do in your prayer is give thanks to God or adore God for something. And I know what they're saying in that situation. Like, it's good to, even in prayer, when you're coming to God with your requests or frustrations in your life, it is good to sit back and reflect on what God is doing for you. But at the same time, I just don't see that in the Psalms that much even.
Right.
Like, David will just be honest from the get-go. Like, I need your help in this situation, or help,
Don't mess up my prayer model, Jonathan, please. I love my prayer model.
What's your prayer model?
ACTS, Acts. I teach it. I try to live it. We adore him. We confess. We forget about confession a lot. We give thanks in the middle there, and then we have supplications. We intercede for others. But we do have those formulas sometimes. Yeah, I know.
And it is, I think those things are great. Like, Jesus even had formulas. When you pray like this.
Oh, he was very formulaic. Yeah. Yes, 7 times a day he was praying.
Exactly. Yep. And it's interesting too that I was even talking about this with someone yesterday, that Jesus had these customs that are strange to us, like even going to synagogue as was his custom, and praying these certain times as was his custom. Like, he had these traditions and customs that were actually good. But there's an aspect of spontaneity, but there's also an aspect of like carrying on the traditions with this kind of stuff. Yeah,
we have to find a balance.
Yeah,
you really do, because having fun with my formula of ACTS, Acts, I find, and I've taught this, when I spend time praising God, worshiping God, adoring God, invariably I'll come to a point where it's a huge wake-up call for me, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm a dirty, rotten sinner. Because if we're worshiping him and his qualities and attributes and in relationship, then all of a sudden I begin to diminish. I get my rightful place. I put God in his place. I get in my right place. So I need to confess. I need to confess a lot of things that God is pointing out to me now as I'm worshiping and adoring him. And then once we do the confession part, then it's very natural, right, to give thanks.
Yep, exactly.
Thank you, God, for forgiving me.
Yep.
Thank you for Christmas. Thank you for Easter. Thank you, not just in November, but it's a very natural thing then to give thanks.
Yeah. Now, this is somewhat of a side note question, but I'm actually intrigued. I was reading a few years ago this book, and he was talking about how we should pray and what the purpose of prayer is and why we even pray in the first place. And he said he's never experienced prayer like this one time when he prayed, when it was just almost like just complete spontaneity. But he said that time that he did it, it was the first time that he's completely got his attention off himself and realized that he was like very small in this whole organized cog. And I think there's actually aspects of gratitude even in that, where you look at the situation and you're like, God is at work in other people's lives, not just my own.
And it's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
There's always, we need to remind ourselves, it's not about me. Was that The Praying Life?
No, it wasn't. It was The Year of Biblical Living.
Okay, yeah.
It was a good little book.
The Praying Life, I forget the fellow who wrote it, but that's also an excellent book on prayer, and it sees prayer more as a whole life thing, not just a formula thing. And both approaches are okay, but that was a good book for me in prayer.
So what do you have any, you have a good Christopher Robin quote over there.
Yes, I do.
What is that?
Yes, I do.
Is that on
This is going
gratitude?
on my doorpost, John.
Okay.
Because it's November. I'm actually late in putting it up. You're all welcome to come and see my office door, because I like to put up things. This is a Thanksgiving pondering from Christopher Robin.
Okay.
I love Winnie the Pooh. And Christopher Robin asks Winnie the Pooh this question. Pooh, what are you thankful for? And of course, Pooh's response is, well, nothing short of everything. Isn't that a great biblical truth there? We're thankful for nothing short of everything. Yeah, and I thought that's so well put. And then I don't know I don't have this psalm memorized, John, but Psalm 107, 8 and 9 has something to do with giving thanks. But I thought that was very cool from Winnie the Pooh. Pooh, what are you thankful for? Nothing short of everything. A great British answer, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That is the most British thing. That's why I've been getting really into children's literature lately.
Yep.
And the depth of truth that there are in just small little things and phrases that these characters say. It's like these characters are brilliant.
I was talking to Dave Shewitt the other day about Charlie Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he had a really good line in one of Charlie Brown's comic strips. And I like Charles Schultz, and I think he has some of his strips have some real wisdom in them.
I know. E.B. White is my favorite. I was telling my niece before. She asked me who my favorite writer was. My 7-year-old niece. I was like, E.B. White, actually. I love E.B. White.
Can't go wrong with old E.B.
So coming up into this Thanksgiving season, how would you recommend just for anybody, for people who are struggling, for people who are really maybe at the peak of their life in this time, what is the best, maybe not the best way, but what are ways that we can practice the discipline of gratitude?
Yeah. It's so simple, it's almost silly, but let me read this to you first, because I brought something else, because I knew I was talking with you, John, and I know you're a big fan of Ambrose, the Bishop of Milan, in the early church there. And he wrote this about thanks. Listen to this quote from Ambrose. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. No duty is more urgent than that of returning thanks. Isn't that great?
Why?
That's a thank-filled life. Because I think when we have, when we know that God's got this, and we can give thanks about it, whether it's immediately or down the road or after some pondering, some thought, I think that's really cool. That no duty as a Christian now, nothing's more important, more urgent, he uses the word, than that of returning thanks. You bump into people who aren't thankful, John.
Oh yeah.
It's not a good look.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
It's not a good look, and I know myself when I get crabby or cranky and I'm not thankful, it's ugly. Yeah. It's not a good testimony for us as believers. People looking from the outside in, seeing this crabby creature, who doesn't want to ever give thanks. I'm always complaining. And my theory about Dutch people and Hollanders, right?
Wait, I think you have a lot of theories about Dutch people and Hollanders.
Now this is okay because Jonathan's Dutch too, but he has a strong Italian component in his life. But I've always had this theory. I came up with this theory. I fancy myself as a little boy. My last name is Van Dyke, and that means of the dike. So my family must have grown up somewhere around the dike. And so I see myself as related to that little fellow in the Netherlands who, when there was a leak in the dike, he went up to it, remember, and stuck his finger in the dike, and he saved all of Holland from going under. So the Netherlands is underwater, really. They're below the North Sea. The North Sea is above them, and they have all these dikes around them that make for huge, beautiful flowers and all kinds of agriculture. But imagine that you live every day, John, with the North Sea above you. All you need is one slip up, and that North Sea is going to inundate your nation. So that would make a Dutch person maybe a little cranky sometimes, or a little crabby, or I don't know. You get up in the morning and think, gee, I wonder if today is the day when that dike is going to break and we're all dead. So that's my theory on Hollanders. And sometimes we can be a little grumpy, but we can be very happy too.
Gratitude is the person that's putting their finger in the dam.
That's right.
Or in the dike.
That's right.
That's right. Good. I like that.
So my silly answer to your question, excuse me, is, and I say this in counseling, and I've taught it in classes too, is I read it somewhere. It's not original to me, but every night before you go to bed, perhaps you have your devotions at night, whatever. If you don't, that's okay. Find 5 things that you're thankful for as you go off to sleep. And you just lay there and you're praying. Discipline yourself to figure out 5 things that you're thankful for. And it's remarkable when you do that, how that list can grow longer and longer and longer. I'm thankful for the meal I had at supper today. I'm thankful that there's a roof over my head and it's snowing outside. I'm thankful for this relationship. I'm thankful for my salvation. All those things. And it kind of builds on itself. Isn't gratitude cool that way? Like it can kind of keeps multiplying and growing. It's infectious, I guess. Sorry to say that in the time of the virus, but it's infectious.
I think that's a really good word, because I think even when I've practiced those things of like for me, writing down what you are grateful for.
Yes.
I think that's huge, because when you start writing it down and when you look back on like all the things that you're grateful for, and it's pages and pages and pages of stuff, literally it transforms your mindset and your attitude.
It does. It renews your mind.
Yeah.
It absolutely does. Gratitude is, I think, one of the, we do it every Thanksgiving and stuff, but it's one of the sort of quieter virtues. It's a little forgotten sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
How powerful it can be in our lives.
Yeah. It's a good last word, how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks. Appreciate you coming. And do you have any last words about gratitude or thankfulness, or about the HCA boys in the state tournament? Or,
I have my HCA soccer hat on. Are people seeing me now, John? Mm-hmm. They are seeing me. This is not just my voice. So you remember back in the day when Jonathan put me up to those crazy rants on YouTube or something when the corona first hit. Well, my hair is crazy as ever. It's a windy day today, and I look like Dr. Brown from Back to the Future. So I wore my hat for this broadcast, and the hat is HCA Boys Soccer, which had a beautiful win yesterday in the state tournament, and they have a big game tomorrow against Morris Catholic.
We'll see.
So we're rooting the HCA Mighty Defenders on, see how they do. So that's been fun, and you and I love soccer, and it's a good thing. It's a great time of the year.
Yeah, we'll have anher time where we just talk about soccer.
Yeah, we'll talk about the theology of soccer, John.
I would love that. There's so much good theology in soccer.
Yeah, there is. You're going to have to ask the questions, though.
I will. Deal. I'll come with all the questions.
Good.
It'll be good. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, John. Good to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.